What is up, guys? This is Odd Job Entertainment bringing you another video, and today we have the long-awaited Bullpup 3.0. And I guess more than anything, all I can really say is sorry it took this long. But I think you're really going to be impressed with the results. I'm excited to build it along with you and show you how it works. So stay tuned. First off, I want to start by explaining why Bullpup 3.0 or the BR75 T was necessary to begin with. If you've been following my channel, you will have seen the BR75 that I made in the past. And while that's a faithful recreation of the BR75 as seen in Halo Infinite and is a working airsoft gun, it also suffers all the bad things that come with being based off of a video game weapon. First and foremost, the BR75 is designed for a 7-foot tall Spartan. I'm a 5'9" short king, so it's really big for someone like me. And so how do you take something that's iconic like the BR75, but make it ergonomic for real people? Well, that's where the Bullpup 3.0 comes in. So Bullpup 3.0, BR75T, they're both intended to be used interchangeably, but this is essentially what you would get if the BR75 were designed for real humans to use. So it uses a lot of off-the-shelf parts. This is a pretty easy to find airsoft M4 rail kit. It uses a standard attachment point here. This is a Picatinny rail across the top, so all of the optics that you already have are going to work with it. Standard M4 style outer barrel, inner barrel, hop up, HPA system. The only thing that is not M4, in fact, is this gearbox that you see here. This is taken from an AEG M249 airsoft gun. Everything else that is off the shelf, except for this pistol grip, is taken directly from an HPA M4. So if you are starting with an HPA M4, you are 90% of the way there to being able to have this and call it your own. Another huge improvement that I wanted to make from the BR75, because I was trying to follow a video game model, I was very limited in the ways that I was allowed to assemble it and disassemble it for the purposes of printing. This time, because I'm freed up from those restrictions, I can design it however I want. And so where the BR75 is held together with faith and a lot of glue, this one is held together with a lot of M5 screws. And that makes it a lot more robust, a lot sturdier, and it means that you can take it apart and not have to swear every time that you do it. I also wanted to increase the safety this time around. Last time, I did work in a working fire selector and safety, but because I was limited by the space in the BR75, it didn't end up working as well as I would have liked it to. Now that I'm freed up to do whatever I want, I'm able to design it to be a little better. And so the functionality of your selector lever now comes down to your print calibration more so than any design limitations. This does have a working safety and fire selector between semi and full auto if you are using an HPA system. AEGs are a lot tougher to get that semi-auto functionality in there because typically the semi-auto is actually a physical disconnect with the switch. I don't have a way of replicating that physical disconnect, but it can be accomplished with MOSFETs, but you're going to have to wire those up yourself. There are plenty of great YouTube tutorials made by people who are a lot better at video editing than I am, so I'd encourage you to seek out a MOSFET that fits your style and use that. Other than that, making it work with AEGs is actually possible this time. I'm not beholden to trying to fit a gearbox into a very limited space. I can make that space as big as it needs to be. So this version does work for AEGs and HPA systems. The only difference is for an AEG, you're going to have to source a micro switch in order to be able to use the trigger, which is kind of important. It's finally here, guys. We are doing the final assembly of the Odd Job Entertainment BR75 T, caliber 6mm, property of the UNSC. So the lettering will probably be a bit more clear on your print, depending on your print settings. I used a 0.6 millimeter nozzle, 0.2 millimeter layer height, and I optimized it for speed as opposed to ultimate precision. And you can see that in my hurry, I didn't quite calculate the amount of filament that I would need very well, but I think it gives a nice look to this overall. This is eSun PET G, and then there are a few parts, such as this lever here, that are done in eSun PLA Plus. And two types of filament that I like a lot, but the PLA Plus I used for some of the more intricate pieces because it prints a little better. But yeah, let's get into it. So to start off, things are a lot easier to assemble this time around. There is very little glue that is used. Everything more so depends on some slotted nuts and some hex bolts. So this should be a lot easier to work on after the fact of putting it together. The most fiddly bit so far is this little guy. This is your selector switch spring tensioner, and its purpose is to deflect like that when the cam pushes on it. What cam? Well, this one. So this is what is going to determine your firing mode or whether or not you're on safety. But this little guy needs to slot in to, let's see if I can point to this a little better. Let's use a red pen. There's a little hole from right here, and what you need to do is you need to drop it down and then scoot it over to the side, and then you probably want to put a dab of hot glue there to hold it in place. Not a ton, just enough to keep it from wiggling back out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll be right back. You can, of course, just use some super glue. This might be a little easier since it's got that little needle tip. In fact, that's what I used. But you just want to secure that spring in place, as we have done there. You can see it's in that slot. It's a little dark, but the darker black piece of plastic, that's your spring. That needs to be in that position. Now, the selector mechanism has three main parts. It has a transfer bar left, middle, and right. So the cam is our middle section, and it sandwiches together with the left side after I clean up that hole a little bit, and it sends that movement to the right side. And then this is what is giving you your safety. When this is in the down position, it blocks the trigger from being able to be pulled and prevents you from firing the gun. When it's up and away, it allows you to shoot. So it doesn't get much more clear than that. I'm going to trim up these parts a little bit, get them all nice and fitting together, and then I'll show you how we install those inside. Okay, there is a fourth piece to the selector switch mechanism. That's the selector plate. And there's not too many parts that I will recommend sanding, but this is definitely one of them. You want this to be able to slide back and forth very smoothly. The other part that you definitely will want to sand accordingly is this back side of your trigger housing. So again, we want I can show that for you here. We want this movement to be nice and smooth. You don't want it to rub unnecessarily, right? But we've got the left and middle, and hopefully your print quality turns out better than mine. Mine is kind of poo today, but from the top view, the middle goes underneath the smaller section of the selector plate. And then this guy, the far left side, needs to mate with this keyed lug on the middle section. And this is where I really wish my print quality were a bit better, but my printer kind of struggles with PET G sometimes. basically you just need to sandwich it like that. Okay, so I'm going to force these parts together somehow, and then I'll be back to show you how they go inside the gun. Okay, so you should have a sandwich that looks like this, and then inside the gun they'll fit together like this. Okay, now you want to put this part in first. This part was designed to go in and then slide all the way to the side so that you'd have room to slot in the other piece. Okay, admittedly that was a bit of a pain, but once it's assembled, should look something like this. So we've got the selector plate on the far side. The cam and gear are interacting with the bit underneath, and then you've got your long lever arm for the safety selector. The square drives should be flush mounted with the outside of the gun. If it looks like that, then everything is in place. You might want to throw a dab of super glue down in there to keep those parts from moving off each other. But after that, it's just a simple matter of fixing the square lugs of the selector paddles into the square drive that's now visible. Okay, with everything mounted correctly, you should have semi. And then it's a little sticky at first, but you should have full auto. And then you should be able to feel resistance on safe. I'm finding that it is a little too easy for it to just push the paddle out of the way. So you may want to put something right here to act as a spacer if you really want your safety to work. So no more gluing barrels in. You can see I've already got the outer barrel inserted on this. It's really pretty simple. If your barrel has the 3 lugs on the top, left, and right positions, there are cutouts in the hole back there to accommodate those lugs. So you just want to line those up, and then you just basically smash the barrel in. If you need to get it out, you can get it. You can pretty easily get a hammer, a small hammer anyways, into here to smack it back out. But just to make extra sure that it doesn't come out, we now have this pretty cool looking knurled barrel screw. And assuming you've got your printer settings dialed in, this should screw on pretty easily. And it should go almost all the way, and then it'll stop right about there. Just give that a few. I mean, it just needs to be hand tight, but basically what that does is it prevents it from having nearly as much wobble, so it's a lot more secure in there. If it did start to try to back out, it would be hitting against the barrel screw. And while I've got you here, we can put the top section on. Oh, I should point out, you need to glue, let's get my pen again. You need to glue some nuts into place. So 2 on either side to go along with those holes. Once you've got those screwed into place, you can put the top section on. And the trick here is you want to get the cable, the battery cable, going up through the hole here as you're putting the whole assembly on. I know I'm not doing a very good job of showing on camera. I apologize for that. Actually, I think I want to put my battery extender on right now.
So you should be making yourself a wiring harness to extend both of the wires that come with your Spartan board. This is going to make it easier to put through the hole. This is kind of tricky to do with the camera on. I hope you guys appreciate the effort I'm going through for you here. Come on. You of course want to always be careful with your wires. Don't want them to get hurt. If we can get that through that hole, that'll keep it kind of out of the way. Give this a spin around so that it's not wrapped around the barrel so much. There we go. We're getting it. We're getting it. It's only when I have the camera on that I have any issues at all, honestly. Oh, I'm hitting the trigger box, that's why. There we go. All right, slides on something like that. Okay, and then you put 4 screws on either side, short screws here, and here. So 4 total on each side, 8 screws in total hold the top to the bottom section. Once those are all in place, you are almost done with your assembly. Okay, we're nearing completion of our BR75 T. I want to go over real quick how the magazine release works. So you can see the catch is printed in orange, and when you pull on this lever, it pulls it out of the way. So it's very simple to assemble. From your M4, you should have your magazine release spring, and it goes behind the orange piece. There is a circular hole that it sits nicely in. You then put the orange piece in, line up the pivot point with this screw hole here, put the screw in, that then holds it in place, and then you slide in your paddle through the slot here, and then it has a screw hole on this side. You put the screw in, and that holds the paddle in place and provides it an axis on which to spin. We've got our screws put in place now. Now the only things that are left is the barrel, the gearbox, which is over here, and then the butt plate. So barrel, I don't think I need to explain that one to you. You guys are pretty smart. Slide it in from the back, goes in just like it would on an AEG. The only caveat I would say is that you do want to check your fitment before you put the gearbox all the way in. But the gearbox follows your barrel, and then once the gearbox is close enough to flush with the back, and you can see there's a little bit of a lip here, so it's not going to be totally flush with the back. Then you just screw the butt plate on, and then at that point you can really be done. This model does have the ability to have an adjustable buttstock. It uses the very same mechanism that the Bullpup 2.0 did, so if you've already built that, then that needs no explanation either. Quick note on inserting the gearbox. You're going to put it in upside down. Okay, so if you're using HPA, you're going to route your tube out through this hole, but typically it's mounted this way in a gun. We're mounting it upside down. Okay, it should only fit in the one way, but I'd hate for anyone to damage their gearbox or their print after spending all this time only to put it in wrong somehow. But this is the top. All right, so this bad boy has a 13-inch length of pole with this plate installed. Without it, it's a 4mm difference, so it's really not a huge deal, but that just slides on like that. And if you're not going to use the adjustable stock function, I still recommend putting this on because it will kind of protect your nozzle down here if you're using HPA. It also looks pretty cool. You know, I put a lot of time into this. I want to see the whole thing complete. And it covers the screws a little bit. That's not a design feature. That is a I didn't get quite the right length of screw, so that gap can be minimized if you're willing to shave those down. But I'm just going to ignore them like that. But it's complete. It's done.
If someone wants to take the time to go ahead and count how many times I say the word all right in this video, I will give you a digital cookie. Apparently it's one of those words that I use to just fill in when I don't have the thought to put in my mouth to turn into words. But I'm glad to have this project done. I'm glad that it's completed. It's been a long road. I've learned a lot, and it will be informing my future design projects for sure. And I'm happy that now it is available for you guys to purchase and then build and replicate yourselves. If you do make your own Bullpup 3.0, please, please, please join the Discord and send me some pictures. I would love to see it. And other than that, I mean, this is the end of the video, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. Let me know what you think. And until next time, this is Odd Job Entertainment, signing off.